Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reisch, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for watching. Now, first, before we get started, I want to thank each and every one of you. Why, you may ask? Well, we just went over 150,000 subscribers. Now, that may not seem like that big of a deal, but we've been working on it pretty hard here for the last 2 years, and the fact that we got there, well, it couldn't be done without you. So thank you very much. First on the docket, people are convinced that they see the ghost of Chris Watts' daughter in the new Netflix documentary. Since its release on September 30th of this year, American Murder: The Family Next Door has become one of the most watched new shows on Netflix. At least some of it is owed to the captivating documentary that it is, but more importantly in its popularity is because of the events that transpired. Now, obviously, these events continue to fascinate people because this took place over 2 years ago. Well, now the buzz is going on, apparently, that the viewers swear that they can see the ghost of Chris Watts' daughter in the background of a scene, and the image is giving people some serious chills. So as you know, here at Crime Talk, we like to deal with facts. We like to deal with the law, not speculation. But since this is Halloween, we thought we'd play along, but the reality of it is we have solved the mystery. Now, as you know, in all of our playlists relating to the Chris Watts case, the body cam images are on our website. The body cam footage taken the day that Shanann and her kids disappeared, that is the one that is causing all this paranormal buzz. Now, it was recorded by the officer who responded to the call from Shanann's friend, Nicole Atkinson. Now, this took place on August 13th of 2018. Atkinson's had dropped off her friend at 2 a.m. that day, and the pair had returned from a business trip. And after she failed to hear from Shanann later that morning, she got a terrible feeling that something was wrong. Her instincts obviously proved to be correct. When Atkinson's called the police to request a welfare check at the Watts home in Fredericks, Colorado, before she knew it, she was wandering through Shanann's home looking for clues, and Chris was acting strange. Now, at one point in the video, Atkinson finds Shanann's phone and hands it to Chris, who turns it on while shifting nervously as he stands there in the loft. Now, you can see here from this little clip, which was meant to highlight Watts' strange behavior in the moments after his wife was discovered missing. But some very observant people, viewers at home, also revealed something that they thought was curious. Some viewers claim that they've spotted Bella's ghost in the background. Now, it may be hard to catch on the first watch, but several videos have been uploaded pointing out what they believe to be the image of the young girl playing in her room. You can see here in the circles, this clip zeroes in on the, quote, paranormal ghost, which is allegedly on the left-hand side of the frame for viewers who might otherwise miss it. We can try to view in, but because the blurry image of the footage and the fact that the ghost is pictured in the distance is quite impossible to say for sure that exactly what the image is. In fact, it may very well be nothing. Still, it appears to be a small girl. Now, obviously, we know at this time both Shanann and the children were deceased, so we know it's not the children. Needless to say, everyone is talking about the ghost in the Watts house. Well, let me show you who we think it is. Take a look at this that shows Nicole standing outside holding a small child. At one point in the video, it also appears as Nicole goes into the back room and is looking around. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We have solved the mystery. People have spent, obviously, hours and days trying to promote this little mystery, and boom, just like that, facts have taken it down. Hate to be the killjoy here, but we like to deal with facts. Mystery solved. Let me know if you think I'm wrong. Next on the docket, a Breonna Taylor grand juror back in the news. 2 grand jurors in the Breonna Taylor case spoke to the media today, and the 2 men asked that they remain anonymous, said that they were never given the option to consider a murder or manslaughter charge, with one calling the police actions and behaviors that night of Breonna Taylor criminal. Now, we have discussed this before. The grand jurors do not get to decide what charges are brought. They get to decide whether the charges that have been presented, whether probable cause has been established or not. That's it. They act as literally a judge, a jury, all right, a grand jury. They're a question of fact. Enough evidence was presented based upon the charges that were presented. It's simply probable cause. The prosecutor is the one that presents the charge. And the prosecutors, according to these grand jurors, said no other charges were being brought because they didn't think that they could make the charges stick. Why is that? Because the prosecutors have to have a belief, an ethical obligation in that belief that they could prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. The district attorneys, in this case the attorney generals, decided that they didn't have enough evidence to prove any other misconduct as it relates to the officers, specifically homicide charges regarding the death of Breonna Taylor. I know people don't like this. Okay, it's a crappy situation indeed. A woman lost her life. Were there mistakes made on the police? Yes. The grand juror recordings, we have them in our playlist below. You can go through and listen to them, as I have, and there is nothing in there that is unethical. I did not hear anything that was wrong with the presentation of those evidence. The people that are complaining about this, unfortunately, do not understand the grand jury process. Now, only matters what evidence is presented and whether the grand jury believes those charges have been sustained as it relates to probable cause. It's simply a standard of does probable cause exist? That's it. So I understand the frustration, but the DAs, the Attorney General in the state of Kentucky, is not going to bring charges other than what's already been filed. I hate to say it, but that's it. It's over. Unless the feds bring charges, which I don't think they're going to, it's a terrible situation. Now, Breonna Taylor's family has been paid a record settlement from the city for their conduct. Breonna Taylor will never be brought back, and that in and of itself is, in fact, a tragedy. Nothing can be done to bring her back, but the city has paid $12 million to the family. I understand they want justice, but I have said this before. If you want justice, don't look for it at the courthouse. It's not there. But you don't get it by going and burning down your city. You change the law. That's what you do. You go through the process, you change the law. You don't riot, you don't burn the city down, you don't threaten to harm people. You change the law through the legal process. Next on the docket, I have said this before and you can look it up. You can go to our video, the 12 Undeniable Truths from a Criminal Defense Attorney. There are two types of people in the world, those that are humble and those that are about to be. Well, remember Lori Loughlin and her husband, Massimo Giannulli? They were less than humble when they were originally charged with basically giving money to get their daughters into school and trying to pay $500,000 to USC. And they created this big scam that their daughters were on the crew team, the rowing stuff. And none of them had ever been on a crew team in their life. Ultimately, Loughlin and her husband entered a plea, and the judge approved that on August 21st of this year. And the former TV star will have to spend 2 months, that's right, 60 days in jail. In addition to that, she has a $150,000 fine, 150 hours of useful public service, and her husband has to go to prison for 5 months. I would think that that would be rather humbling when you are in a world where you can write a $500,000 check to get your children into school that they are not qualified to go to. She was humbled at her sentencing, where she told the judge she went along with this plan to give her daughters an unfair advantage in the college admission process, that she was allowed to be swayed from her own moral compass. She thought that she was acting in her child's best interest and out of love, but in reality, it only diminished her daughter's abilities and accomplishments. Loughlin's surrender date to the Bureau of Prisons rapidly approaches. She is apparently facing her sentence with resolve. She's going to go in, do her time, and get out. And she wants to move forward and get ready for 2021. And according to Miss Loughlin's friends, there's some humility there that people really hadn't seen before from the star, which only confirms my theory There's two types of people, ladies and gentlemen. That theory has never been wrong. There's two types of people. Remember it. Those that are humble and those that are about to be. Always be humble. Next on the docket, we had a hearing this morning in the Chad Daybell matter, and it was a hearing regarding the prosecutor's motion to join the trials of Chad Daybell and his wife, Lori Vallow. Now, this hearing took place before Judge Boyce. We broadcast it live. If you'd like to take a look at it, it's right down below here in a link. So what really happened? Now, we've talked about joinder, and then there's also the difference of severance. Now, a joinder is bringing two cases together for trial. And in this particular case, the prosecutor was basically arguing that, Judge, for judicial economy, for ease on the prosecution, as well as taking into account what the victim's family is going to have to go through with multiple trials, it's just not fair. And oh yes, the most important point that the court made in its analysis was all the facts and the evidence that's going to be presented are the same. Even Chad Daybell's attorney, Mark Pryor, conceded that under the rules for joinder, under the Idaho Rules of Criminal Procedure, that the facts are the same. Now, what we didn't get into were issues for severance. Severance is going to be basically down the road. I anticipate Mr. Pryor filing a motion for severance based upon, in his own words, discovery disputes that will hopefully be resolved shortly, where he can file motions regarding the severance motion. Severance is going to be where they point fingers at each other or say there's evidence that's more prejudicial to his client than to the other co-defendant being tried, and therefore the trials should be severed. Now the cases are at least going to be heard in front of one particular judge so that there are not inconsistent legal rulings based upon evidence, which could happen. It does happen where there are multiple co-defendants that sometimes wind up in front of different judges and you get different rulings. They're trying to avoid that. The court said, right now, we're going to join these and we will have one trial, at least as for now. Now, one thing that Mark Pryor, Mr. Daybell's attorney, did very well is even if he knew that this motion was going to be denied, which he did, let's face it, Rule 8A, and even though he filed a motion for supplemental authority last week, which was referred to as the Nava case that was mentioned in the hearing, it was similar as it related to severance, and one of the issues has to be with, and it had to do with issues regarding admissibility of evidence related to one particular defendant and not the other. Mark Pryor filed this objection and held a hearing on the matter. Why is that significant? As a defense attorney, you always have to anticipate and plan for whether you lose. And if you lose, did you preserve those issues on appeal? You may recall Lori Vallow's attorney, Mark Means, said, we don't object. In fact, we want these cases to be joined. We want them to go to trial together. Well, guess what? If his client loses, that's one less appellate issue that they have on appeal. So I know a lot of people have said they don't like Mark Pryor, but I'm telling you, this guy is experienced. He's good. He gets it. I get beat up a little bit when I say this Mark Means guy, probably not his forte when it comes to criminal defense. I think I will be proven correct. But as I stated, he just waived a potential issue on appeal if he needs to appeal the case after the trial. Obviously, we'll continue to follow this and we'll see if we actually have a trial after the first of the year, given all the COVID issues. Next on the docket is Barry Morphew's story starting to come apart. New information is becoming available regarding whether the alibi provided by Suzanne Morphy's husband, Barry Morphew, is really legitimate. Now, for those who do not know, Suzanne Morphy disappeared sometime on Mother's Day weekend. And initial reports indicated that she had gone for a bike ride on the morning of May 10th and never returned. Now, there's never been any concrete evidence or witnesses' statements that say that they actually saw Suzanne Morphy out riding her bike on Mother's Day. The only thing that is certain was that she was last seen alive in the neighboring town of Salida the day before, when witness reportedly saw her and Barry out getting sandwiches. The police have been very mum about the investigation since Suzanne Morphy's disappearance. Barry Morphy, her husband, has said that he was in Broomfield, Colorado, just down the street from where we are, and he was there that weekend to work on a landscaping job, specifically to build a retaining wall next to the Northwest Parkway in Broomfield. It's a highway, and that's about a 3-hour drive from the Morphy home. Now, according to the information that we have, it's believed that Morphy is believed to have left his home for Broomfield in the early morning hours of Sunday, May 10th. Now that seems a little weird. I don't know about you, but if I had told someone that I was going to go to work on Mother's Day, my wife or the lovely Miss Kristen would probably tell me, no, you're not. And then it's alleged that Mr. Morphy then returned the same day after being contacted regarding his wife's disappearance. That seems fishy in of itself, just because you got to be there for Mother's Day. Independent investigation by a Fox 21 reporter by the name of Lauren Schraff reports that the Barry Morphy was contracted for the Broomfield job by a company based in Indiana, where he and Suzanne Morphy lived up until 2018. And according to this report, the general contracting company was Garrett Construction, who outsourced the job to EA Outdoor Services. And that company then hired Morphy, who appears to have been working as an independent contractor since moving to Colorado, where he also works as a volunteer firefighter. Now, the president of EA Outdoor Services is a gentleman by the name of Tony Miller, and apparently he is a longtime friend of Barry Morphy. It's alleged that Miller himself hired Barry Morphy for the job, and the report suggests a somewhat lack of transparency as to this particular work assignment. There apparently are no public documents that ever mentioned Barry Morphy being assigned to this particular job. A worker for EA Outdoor Services reportedly spoke to this Ms. Schraff on the condition of anonymity and expressed doubts about Morphy's alibi. This person also stated that they knew nothing about Barry Morphy until after Suzanne Morphy's disappearance. According to this report, the Indiana-based source says that the original retaining wall took place back in October of 2019, but the work was considered to be poorly done. Morphy and his subcontractors were reportedly scheduled to return to fix and complete the job on Monday, May 11th, raising the question as to why Barry Morphy arrived in Broomfield a full day earlier than the work was planned to be done. That doesn't strike me as particularly shocking. If you live 3.5 hours away, you show up a little early. If you're the supervisor, you want to get the lay of the land. It could be completely innocent for sure. We're just being fair. This source from Indiana also states that the work was not considered particularly urgent. The report also states that the city of Broomfield had not issued a special permit for work on the site to be completed on a weekend. Well, once again, just because you show up early doesn't necessarily mean you're going to work on the project. You could be there to get the lay of the land. Now, Barry Morphy said that he was actually working there, I think, when called his coworker to come down when his wife had disappeared, but he sat in the hotel room for several days not doing any work. And the representative from EA Outdoor Services also told this Ms. Schraff that they do not believe that any work was done on the wall on Sunday. This source also states that there was no reason for anyone to be there on Sunday, Mother's Day, to do that job. And if they're saying that they were there to do that job, that is simply not truthful. There's also some reports that the necessary equipment for the work in May was never actually ordered. One of Barry's contractors told Schraff that they tried to do the work they could on that May Monday with the tools available to them, but acknowledged that it was completely inadequate. And EA Outdoor Services website states that all of their landscaping jobs are monitored daily. When this reporter contacted Tony Miller, the president of EA Outdoor Services, regarding these types of questions, Mr. Miller said only that he had no comment. So, could this just be somebody that doesn't like Mr. Morphy making anonymous claims? Was Mr. Morphy down there for legitimate reasons getting set up for a job? Or was there something nefarious going on? I'm sure all of these individuals has been spoken to by the sheriff investigating the case, or at least I hope so. But once again, you have to look at the facts. Does it a sign of something nefarious, or is it something completely innocent? We'll have to wait and see. And as always, Mr. Morphy is given the presumption of innocence and no charges have been filed against him whatsoever. And if the police thought that they had probable cause to charge Mr. Morphy in regards to the death of Suzanne Morphy, they would have done so already. As of right now, there simply isn't enough evidence, and he will be presumed innocent. That's all we have for you today. Have a great weekend. We will see you next week. Have a great day. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk.